Okay, yeah. Let's begin. Let's begin.
All right. Good. All good? Yeah. Okay. Chalo. So we are going to start the second episode of Rudecast, and now with Pratham Padav. And here we have Pratham Padav. He is a guy who takes others' podcast, interviews others. So we are going to be like the opposite here. Be like interviewing Karan Thapar. I don't really know what to say, but I'm going to manage. And he does seem to have some very interesting views. So I'm going to be poking into them and ruthlessly, mind you, because this is called Rudecast. So I'm going to be very rude. And I hope
Awesome.
you
Yeah.
are. All right. So who are you? Let's start.
Okay, yeah. Who am I? I'm yet to figure out, man. Like the reason why I started the podcast is to figure out who I am. Uh, well, I grew up in a joint family, okay, of Orthodox Hindu family, and I studied mostly in Catholic schools, and most of my friends growing up were Catholics. So I
Right.
had these two worlds. Okay, on one side we see these. I saw these right wing Hindu kind of people. And
Right.
Mangalore is a very sensitive place where people get attacked for going to pubs sometimes, or people can get attacked for saying the wrong things. And on the other side, I'm hanging out with my Catholic friends, my secular, liberal, uh, posh English-speaking friends with whom I'm hanging out in the some of the poshest places in Mangalore and Bangalore. So I grew up in that kind of a um, in that kind of a dichotomy where I'm getting the best or the worst of both the worlds, and I got fed up of both of them. I got fed up of my family, of my religious family, because most of the things didn't make sense to me, and that's the reason why I became an atheist very early on, maybe in school itself. But I don't call myself an atheist anymore. I prefer to call myself an agnostic. And
Yeah, that makes
yeah, so I think my entire life I've been getting fed up of one group after another group. And I decided, one of the reasons why I decided to start the podcast is so that I can talk to people of they don't have to necessarily agree with me, but talk to all kinds of
right.
people to figure out who I am. And on one
Mm.
of the podcasts, a guest asked me, "Where are you planning to take this podcast?" And I told him, "I don't plan on taking this podcast anywhere. I want to see where this podcast will take me, because I haven't figured out who I am."
Right. All right. So you still haven't figured out who you are at
No,
this point.
yeah, this is an ongoing process.
All right. So I just have a question. How important do you think it is to know who you are? And can you ever really be anybody?
How important is it to know who you are? Most people don't know who they are, and yet they're so happy. The statement
Mhm.
"ignorant is a bliss" is it's uh, it's it's not just a statement. It's very true, because most people don't know who they are, and they're so happy. The people who know themselves the most are the most frustrated. They are anxious. They are constantly seeking for more, because knowledge is like a bucket with the giant hole. You can go on
Yeah.
filling it with water, and you'll have to. It won't satisfy you. So self awareness is required to navigate in life, and it also makes life more interesting. For me, the self inquiry has made my life more interesting and more challenging, but it's not very important, considering the fact that most people don't know who they are and yet they're happy. So I wouldn't say it's the most important thing, at least for most people.
Okay, okay. So, but do you think people are happy? I don't really find people very happy. I mean, maybe in Mangalore, in a coastal town, that's possible.
Mm.
But and I live in Nasik, so I see a lot of quite rich people, in fact. And in Nasik, yeah, your rupee really goes a long way. So even if you're making money, like a little bit of money, you're rich here. But somewhere in Bombay or Delhi, or when you see the dead people on the trains, it doesn't seem like the mass or the people who are making serious money are really happy. They seem dead rather. So how did you come to this conclusion that people are happy? Is it because of living in a small town, or what is the?
No, I am not saying that people are happy. I'm saying that ignorance can allow people to be happy in certain ways. They will still be frustrated in some other ways, but because they
Correct.
don't have to worry about uh, who they who they are. Like a lot of us, including me, I have this anxiety. Like, who am I? What do I want in life? Even if I attain something,
Correct.
I'm not satisfied. Ignorant people
Hmm.
don't have that dilemma. They are happy with
Fair enough.
whatever. You see a beggar on the street or a migrant laborer. Most Indians are below the poverty line. You throw some food on their face, they'll be happy for the for forever. So
Hmm.
that's my observation.
What if that is the meaning of life? Like what if, or even your life for that matter, that it is
Hmm.
basically above poverty line problem. That I am, who am I? Or basically what you're searching for is what do you like, right? Essentially. What if there is nothing, and that itself is an opportunity to discover much more than yourself, you know?
Yeah, I don't need anything more in my life. I want more. Life is by default, life is meaningless. Life is an
Right.
empty blank canvas. If you want, you can add meaning to your life. You are the paintbrush. You can add purpose
Mm-hmm.
to the life, but purpose, meaning, these are all different ways of saying desire. If you choose to
Right.
acquire desire or meaning or purpose, you are going to inevitably suffer. So you have to decide for
Right.
yourself if purpose or meaning is worth suffering. Now, I have chosen to take some challenges in my life, and I know that those challenges will be accompanied with suffering. And I have concluded that that suffering is worth it. So for
Right.
me, it's fine.
Right.
Most people
Mm.
suffer meaninglessly. Most people do jobs
Absolutely.
that they don't like. They buy car on loans. They get married to a random woman, and they endlessly suffer. If you ask them, was this suffering worth it, they're not capable of giving a proper calculation. Like, if I had to say, if if I could make a list of all the things that I suffer for, I would say at least most of the things is worth suffering for.
Mm. Fair enough. Most of the things are worth suffering for. Things like what? What? Give me a list of the top three things you'd say is worth suffering
Like just being alive. Okay, I
for.
haven't killed myself, not yet. Being alive itself is a form of suffering. You have to constantly put food in your stomach. You have to earn money, at least a basic amount of money. You will have to take good care of your health. I mean, I take good care of my health. I try to eat nutritious food. I go to the gym. I make sure that I do at least the bare minimum. And this is also a form of suffering. I'm having, because this fosters a sense of desire. Okay, you want to build a certain body, you don't want to get acidity or some kind of digestive issues. It is a form of
Right.
desire, and it's a desire that I'm worth suffering for. But then there are other things
Mhm.
which I will have to reinvestigate if they're worth suffering for. For example, right now I live in this house with my parents and my sister. And I've made it very clear to my relatives and to even my parents that I don't believe in God the way you believe in God, and I don't want to participate in these rituals. For many days in a week, my parents, my mother especially, tells me that you have to be a vegetarian. It doesn't make sense to me. Or she tells me you have to go and you have to follow this ritual. I tell her, like, it doesn't make sense to me. But then it's a bargain. I would rather do that ritual rather than arguing with her. Arguing with her takes far more energy. So this is also a
Mm.
form of suffering, but I think that suffering is worth it because I get to live in some kind of harmony with her.
Hmm. Okay. So basically, you are saying that, but that my question is, okay, it doesn't make sense to you, but have you asked her if it makes sense to her and why it makes sense to her?
I don't think she has asked that question to herself, because whenever I get into an argument with my mother, she ultimately concludes by saying, "This is what we have been doing. This is what our ancestors have been doing. Okay, we many of us believe in this. If everyone can believe, why can't you believe?" It's a logical fallacy, and she doesn't go
Hmm.
deeper than that. She doesn't. She can't. It's not. She doesn't have the potential, at least at this age, to conclude that, okay,
Mhm.
my son has his own way of living. let him live like that. She can't come to that conclusion at all, because in order to conclude like that, you need tools like rational thinking, skepticism, scientific temper. She doesn't have access to those tools, so she can't conclude in the right way.
Fair enough, fair enough. But have you asked her what joy she gets from that? Like, I'm very interested because I've always been asking people, like, or other people who follow these things, like, why does it make you happy? And they don't seem to give me an answer except for a sense of routine. So would she have an answer to that?
What? Sorry, what makes her happy? You mean to say religion, or forcing a religion on her son?
No, yeah, no, not forcing. Forcing, that's okay. That is understandable. See, once you've adapted something, that is a different thing. You tend to want to do it to others, okay? Especially an unaware person. But what joy does she get from doing those specific rituals? Is my question.
I have no clue. Really, I don't know, because I've asked her, not specifically, but I've asked her in different ways. I've told her, look,
Mhm.
the person who doesn't pray, who doesn't do all these rituals, good things happen to him, bad things happen to him. And to you religious
Correct.
folks, who follow this diligently, good things happen to you. Even you can get cancer. I even give her examples. Look, this is what happened to your sister, this is what happened to your cousin,
Mhm.
this is what happened to some religious people. And she
Right.
doesn't seem to have a good answer. Her ultimate answer is always this illogical answer that everyone is doing, why can't you do it? Or your forefathers, my father did this, his father did this, and they had some good luck. And she gives this minute
Random
examples. Okay,
example.
yeah. I i tell her, okay, you are pointing out at all the good things that happened to these people. Look at those same people, so many bad things have happened. You're not looking at that. You're
Yeah.
being very, you're cherry picking. And
Yeah.
I don't want to argue too much, because it's not worth it. It's an energy waste for me.
True. True. Fair enough. That is true. I totally agree with you. So, what do you think about Indians in general? So, today morning, I had this with Jayan Bhandari,
Mm.
and he was full in charge mode. Okay, so I mean, it's fun. It's really nice to listen to him, but he does not seem to have a very nuanced answer. So, if you can give me a nuanced answer, that would be very interesting. Like, what
Yeah,
exactly, the ups and downs and everything. Yeah.
yeah. So, speaking of Jayant Bandari itself, when I got Jayant Bandari recently, it got a lot of negative comments, and some of those negative comments actually make sense. Even I don't agree with everything Jayant Bandari said. He accurately pinpointed what is wrong with our culture, but he doesn't seem to
Mhm.
be interested in some of the solutions. And some of the things that he said, I thought were very extreme. Like he said that India actually benefited from Mughal rule. I
Okay.
don't think that is accurate. I do believe that we benefited from colonization, from the British, Portuguese, French colonization. But he's. I even tried to push him in a different way. I told him, look, even Europeans were living like Indians until the Reformation, the Age of Enlightenment happened, and post that they
Correct.
gradually got human rights. They came up with the concept of natural rights, Enlightenment in the 1700s. There was a French Revolution, American Revolution, and this changed. Prior to that, even Europeans were living a very feral life like Indians, even more disgusting way. So so I was trying to push him in a way to say that, is that reformation possible in India? And he seems to have a very cynical view. I think his opinions are based on his experience. More than anything, a person's experience molds his opinion. For him, I think a lot of bad things must have happened in India. He was an investor here, he was a businessman here, and he's even posted videos on Facebook where his father was harassed by his own relatives, his own
Mhm.
relatives. Bribed the local government officers and took his father's property away from him. So naturally, he will have an extremely negative outlook of India. But I think some kind of nuance is required. If we don't talk about practical solutions, then why are we talking at all? We would only be we're only deriving joy from insulting India. And trust me, I love insulting this country. But if we are only insulting this country and not pointing at some kind of a solution, then such a conversation is absolutely useless.
True, true, very true. That's true. So, what is your opinion of India and Indians? I think India and Indians are two different things in the sense of someone was telling me the other day, I love India. And I think even he likes India because he was saying that, oh, if we have foreigners here, then we will have, like, if we have foreigners running this place, we'll have millions of tourists, if not hundreds of millions, which I agree with. We have some brilliant spots. So, someone was telling me, I love India, but I don't like Indians. I cannot deal with Indians. So what do you say? Like, what is your general opinion?
Yeah, the Indians, we are we we are a consequence. We are a consequence of our own history. A lot of bad things have happened to us again because of our own stupidity. We say we take a lot of pride in our heritage, in our history, but I
Correct.
ask these so-called nationalists, if we were so powerful, if our ancient kings were so powerful, these nationalists say
Correct.
we had these vimanas, we had flights and internet even 1,000, 2,000 years ago. I tell them, like, if our ancestral kings were so strong, why did we get murdered and raped by invaders, by Central Asian invaders multiple times? Why did all these Alauddin Khilji come to Delhi and rape 1,000 women and murder lakhs of people? And then the Mughals came, and then the British came, then the French came, the Portuguese came. If Indians were really smart, the other thing would have happened. We would have colonized Iran, we would have colonized Africa, we would have colonized Europe, but that didn't happen. And
Mm,
the thing about Indians is that we are very irrational people, and we
mm,
have to acknowledge that we are irrational. But the thing that is blocking us from acknowledging our mistakes is this blind pride. Now, next week we're going to have Independence Day, 75th Independence Day. Everybody proudly they're putting a tricolor in their DP. But I asked them, are you truly an independent person? And I even tell them,
mm,
look, I don't think our enemies are Pakistanis or Chinese. When you get harassed on the streets, it's most likely going to be an Indian harassing you. When you have to pay a bribe,
true.
it's going to be an Indian. When you get raped or murdered, it's going to be an Indian. When Jayant Bandari came
Right.
on my podcast for the first time, this is what he said. He said, what difference does it make to me if a white man rapes me or if a brown man rapes me? At least the white man will be more softer. So the same this the same logic has to be applied here. I think first we have to acknowledge that we are a very irrational people, and we are also a very weak and divisive people. 80% of this country are Hindus constantly fighting amongst themselves. Vegetarian Hindus are saying non-vegetarian Hindus are not Hindu enough. I personally am against beef ban. I don't think there is anything wrong in eating any kind of meat you want. I have a very libertarian approach when it comes to meat consumption, or when it comes to anything. Uh,
Correct.
so Hindus are constantly fighting amongst themselves, and when they are done fighting amongst themselves, they fight with Muslims. So it's, and even after all this, we have to come on August 15th. We have to salute the flag and say all Indians are my brothers and sisters. Oh no, I don't think so. I don't think I definitely there we have three main national holidays: Independence Day, Gandhi Jayanti, and Republic Day. I don't feel
Correct.
like celebrating any of these three. Independence Day, because we are not independent, we are not freedom. It's a day when we pretend to be independent, when we are actually colonized by a bunch of brown sepoys who call themselves as IAS officers, IPS officers, who are so corrupt, who are so
Mm,
feral. It's like it's no different from being colonized by a foreign country. The reason why I don't celebrate Gandhi Jayanti is because I don't believe Gandhi is the father of this nation. I don't like his ideals. I don't believe in non-violence or socialism. He doesn't resonate with me, and most Indians today don't think resonate with Gandhiji. So I don't think see the point of celebrating Gandhi Jayanti anymore. Republic Day is okay, fine. You want to celebrate, celebrate. But most Republic Day is a day for our Constitution. Most of us don't believe in
right.
the Constitution. It's just a piece of paper. We only point out to the Constitution when it is convenient for us. We only like some parts of
Mm,
it. We do. What is the point of celebrating these holidays? Now, I'm sure if nationalists are watching this, they will go to the comment section and say, "You're a fucking leftist." But I'm not a leftist. I'm even more hateful against leftists. One group of people who I hate even more than nationalists are Indian leftists who have
mm,
this sense of virtue, that they are better, that they put themselves in a higher pedestal. They're constantly virtue signaling, and they have a very false sense of reality. So that's what I think of
Right.
Indians.
Right. So, do you have a theory as to why we are like this? Because there are so many theories, and I have just been riffing with a friend of mine and many friends over many years actually. And many years ago, an NRI uncle told me that nothing's going to happen in India, and I had all this belief, Deshbhakti at that time. But today, I just don't get it. Like, why is it so bad? Why is it so bad?
Uh, uh, like I said previously, I think it's partially because we Indians are a consequence. We were ruled for so many years. We are so used to being ruled. We are used to being ruled by Mughals,
Mhm.
the British. We don't know how to rule. And when one of us choose to rebel, we try to silence him. We don't like our own people rebelling against the powerful. We tell our kids go to school, get good marks, follow you watch the news channel, whatever. So you can't expect these kids to rebel, and the few of us like you and me who choose to think slightly differently are shunned by our own uncles and aunties. So
Of
what's the
course.
point? Like, I'm not interested at this point even to save these people. uh, i- for example, my mother and a lot of my aunts say, follow a tradition. But tradition right now is like a sinking boat. And I have learned to swim, and I have found another island on the corner. I'm choosing to swim to that island. The people who are following tradition just for the sake of it, they can drown. I don't care. I actually want to, if I can move to a better country, I will. But if I am going
Right.
to live in India, because moving abroad is not very easy. If I'm going to live in India, I would want to find like-minded people and form a community. That way, at least I can blunt the bad things that will happen to me.
Yes. Yes.
But
Fair
I
enough.
still
Fair
didn't
enough.
answer. But I still didn't answer your question. Why are we Indians like this? I don't know entirely. Actually,
Exactly. It is so difficult, because I went through the whole thing. I went through climate. I'm like, we are too lazy because I really feel even in this amazing climate at Nashik, beyond a point I get really tired because it is technically hot. Okay. And just generally, if you see the hotter countries, they're quite messy, because you don't feel like getting up and working. And partially it's because, you can sleep under a tree. You don't need that house to keep you warm. So that is one of my theories. The other is, of course, the servile nature of Indians, where they are. It's not Vasudeva Kutumbakam. It is Vasudeva slave. Slavambakam, whatever it's called. So it's all these things factors put together, which has created a very unique populace to say. Because if you take us to the Africans, like we are not servile. That's another thing. We are not entirely servile. We can be subdued, but over a course of 100 years, and even then we will not listen. I mean, if you see, like I was just telling him this morning that if you see Modi and all, even let's assume he's doing something. Okay, he has absolute power. Let's assume. Okay, he's aged for 20 years in the last 8 years. The man is looking old, literally. So even running this country when you have absolute power is such a stress. You know, it's like it's not even funny.
yeah. So I know this is your podcast, but I have some questions. I know that you support BJP. What are your? Have you voted in the past? Who do you vote for?
No, I don't. I am Nota. I'm pro Nota. See, I'll tell you why I support BJP because I'm an anarchist. Okay, and
Mm,
I like the way they are taking down the country. It's beautiful. I really like the whole. It's very entertaining to me, frankly. So that's my thing. Like, and it's so much continuous nonsense going on that I'm just like, okay, I don't need to watch Netflix. I mean, I do, but most of the time I'm just looking at news and I'm like, what is this nonsense? So that's my point.
nice, nice.
Yeah, so I live for this, man. I mean, I go out, there are photos on the street. I now maybe I've chosen a little less of that because I moved from Bombay to a better place. But I'm always going to want some degree of that, and it's a very conscious choice. Unlike most Indians who are just floating in the air.
Mm, nice.
So what do you think of my question? It's like I'm saying even a guy who can run everything technically is aging so hard because Indians are not survived. They'll say yes. They will say very good, and then they will just do whatever they want.
So wait, what is your question? I didn't get your question. So you're saying why is Modi aging so fast?
No. Sorry, my bad. I'm a new podcaster now. So my question was that do you think Indians are servile or they're somewhere in between servile in the sense of they have an opinion of their own, okay, created or not, and they will do exactly what they want. Like just they're confused about what they want, but they will still, I'll give an example. There was a guy who from Israel, he had come to India for some work, and he was leading an IT team. And all of them were like, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. He was explaining, gave them a presentation. They were like, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. And in the end, they just didn't do what he told them to. So he's like, if you didn't understand, why did you say yes? You know. So what can you describe Indians in one sentence, like including the servile nature and doing what they want and saying yes without, without understanding something? Do you agree with this
Yeah,
firstly?
yeah. We like to say yes to things even when we don't understand. We like to laugh at our boss's joke even when it's not funny. The thing about Indians is that they don't have a healthy toolbox that contains tools like rational thinking, skepticism, scientific temper. If they had this toolbox and if they knew how to use it, then they wouldn't behave the way they're behaving. Right now, Indians are behaving randomly and they cannot even justify their actions. If you ask an Indian why you're doing this, why you are spitting gudka, or why you are doing these things, they will not have a good answer. For example, a politician will take bribe, and if you are, that's okay, okay, and I will say, okay, fine, you are taking bribe. Why are you taking the bribe? To enrich myself. Okay, fine. But then he starts taking hundreds of crores of bribe. That doesn't make sense to me, because after a while, like, why do you need so much money? This is going to be enough for your kids and your grandkids. Like, why do you need so much money? Like, I don't mind
Why do
evil.
you
See,
think
at
Indians
least,
are not surviving?
yeah, the thing about Hitler or some evil person is, even their evil actions, if you ask them why did you do this, they'll be able to give a rational answer. You may not like that answer,
Yeah.
but they'll be able to explain that. Here, our wrongdoings don't even have an explanation.
Yeah, true. Very true. Okay, let's change the direction of this. You hate vaccines, is that right? What is
I'm
your
not an Yeah.
you put a lot of posts anti-vaccine or whatever. I'm not trying to put you in a corner. I know they were logical, but can you explain what your view is?
Okay. I am not an anti-vaxxer. In fact, just last year I got the rabies vaccine. I was asked to. I was working as a volunteer for an animal shelter, and they told if you have to be around dogs, you have to take the rabies vaccine. And I said okay. My only problem was with the COVID vaccine. So they mandated
Mm,
COVID vaccines to enter malls and theaters, and I started a group here in Mangalore, and we
mm,
protested. We went to the DC's office and the corporation commissioner's office, and we said enough of this, and we managed to get it reversed in some places. We went to a college principal and we said, don't mandate vaccines. So
mm,
the thing about COVID vaccine is, I don't see the point of why it should be mandated when COVID has a survival rate of more than 99%, and the COVID vaccine again has some side effects. It has side effects like thrombosis, myocarditis, heart inflammation. So I think people
right.
have to take personal decision. I'm not saying that COVID vaccine has to be banned. I'm saying, like, you, if you're young and healthy, and if you know that it's not going to affect you, and if you're not going to spread it, and if you're just going to be in your own zone, then you shouldn't be forced to take the COVID vaccine. If someone like who's the Djokovic, if he didn't want to take the vaccine, he was not allowed to go to Australia, but he went to the UK and he won Wimbledon, and he didn't really negatively impact anyone. So my only logic is putting personal liberties ahead of anything else. I understand that sometimes you may have to make compromises, but here I think the answer is very simple. I'm against COVID vaccine mandates. I'm against lockdowns. I'm against mask mandates. If your liberties are harming someone else, then we may have to make compromises. But here, I think the answer was fairly simple.
Interesting. But 99.7, I don't think it. I think in India it was much more because I think we have a horrible diet. Okay, firstly, and we live relatively unhealthy lives. So, and a lot of them were unrecorded. A lot of the deaths were unrecorded. So I think from in India point of view, it does make sense. Okay, and there are increasing number of old people, etc., etc. So you said that if a guy is sitting at home not doing anything, fair enough. But if he's going to a mall, where probably an old person is, maybe that old person would not appreciate that he took the vaccine but not them.
Yeah, but uh, even if you take the vaccine, you can still spread the virus at the same rate as the unvaccinated person. I'm not saying this. The CDC and the WHO is saying that even if you take the vaccine, you should still. They said you should still wear a mask or double mask. You can spread COVID at the same rate as the unvaccinated person. So again,
Hmm.
there's no point there. You're not getting any added advantage, but you're putting the young person at the risk of getting some kind of blood clots. I don't
Hmm.
want that risk.
Hmm. Fair
and
enough. But that
and
risk is.
that risk is there, but like you mentioned, that we are a very unhealthy people, and it is mainly caused because of diet. Again, going to the CDC stats, in the Indian stats are terrible, okay, but US stats are pretty good. In the US, the average person who died of COVID had not one or two but four comorbidities, which means he was obese, plus he was diabetic, plus he was hypertension, plus he had some other kind of comorbidity. So, isn't the real pandemic obesity and diabetes? That's to me, you have to go to the root cause.
Yeah, but that's a different issue. But in India, everyone walking around has diabetes. Okay, the kind of diets we have, terrible. Even the rich people, not just the poor. Even the rich have terrible diets. Okay, so that I agree that basically you have to change your diet, your lifestyle. But in that moment, what was required seemed to be the vaccine. I'm not pro or against. I just waited enough time to see that not enough people are dying. I'm like, okay, then I took the vaccine. No, I took my own time for it. So, like, there were a lot of people dying that are unrecorded, basically, and because of our diets or whatever. So, what do you say about that? Like, does that change your opinion slightly?
No, it does not. I'm very apathetic towards people who don't take care of their health. If they're diabetic and if they're obese, why should I take the vaccine to make them feel safer? They should be the one changing their lifestyle, their diet, their requirements. They should be the one taking care of their health. And the old people, if they want, they can live at home. They can put a self-imposed lockdowns rather than putting lockdowns on young people who are going to be unaffected. Now
Correct.
the COVID mostly affects a certain group of people. Why put one size fit all treatment for everyone?
Right. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So, what do you think the future of India looks like?
The future of India, it's unpredictable because thing about India is that it disappoints both optimists and pessimists. You can't be too
Yeah.
pessimistic about India also, because India has actually achieved some things. Okay, like 10 years ago, I wouldn't have believed that even the smallest kiosks in some corner of the highway would accept electronic payments. If someone would have told me 10 years ago, I
Hmm.
wouldn't have believed that. That would have been like that would come out of a science fiction book. But now it's happening.
Right. I also
So
believe that 5 years ago.
yeah, and something like that is happening. So these things do happen in India. So the future of India is very unpredictable, but I think because we have such low standards, because Indians have low standards, India is going to be a very stable country. Because in India, even if a recession happens, most people will not know it,
Hmm.
because we are so used to poverty. We are used to jugaad. We're used to potholes in our
Hmm.
roads. So it doesn't matter
All
to
right.
us. Even if Pakistan drops a bomb on our roads, we are so used to potholes that
Yeah.
bomb might actually flatten the potholes and improve the roads. So we won't
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
affected by it at
I
all.
think it is.
Yeah. See. Exactly.
Yeah,
So
that
I
is.
mean, there have been so many terrorist attacks. There's been just in Mumbai. There's been 26/11. I'm sure the very next day people are back to their normal lives. People in India don't
Yeah.
get affected.
Hmm. So we just do, whatever's happening, hone do, it doesn't really matter. But
Yeah.
would you say that because of our deep sense of conservatism, in the sense of like we don't like the US, they keep
Mm.
messing around. Like they let companies not pay tax, come do whatever you want, come pay, and they push the economy, pump the economy. Whereas we will not allow that to happen. So in a way, our crab, sense of crabbiness, or pull the other guy down, is saving us from a complete collapse. Would you say that?
No, the reason why we cannot completely collapse like Sri Lankans, the way Sri Lankans have took over the parliament, is because we don't have the guts to do that. We
Hmm.
have that chalta hai attitude. Even if the worst happens, we're like, oh, what is there in this? This is nothing. We are
Right.
like Jan Bandar said, we're like cockroaches in the gutter. We are so used to misery and poverty. Like, what difference does it make? Even the worst is something that is normal for us.
Right, right. And when people say Indians are poor, I disagree. Like there are some urban poor, okay, and there are some tribal poor. Exist, fair enough, and they are like really, really poor. But most people, if you go to UP or if you go to anywhere, okay, they have 10 to 20 lakhs in their locker. Okay, they have sona, chandi, everything they have, and yet they just live like beggars because beti ki shadi, that kind of bullshit. So what is the theory? What is the logic behind this? Like, why would they starve themselves so that one day the daughter can get married? Is it just low IQ, or is it something else?
This is pure conservatism, extreme conservatism. Our ancestors are doing it, so we have to do it as well. There is no logic behind it. You can have less number
Right.
of children and improve your lifestyle. Why do people in slums have kids? If a couple in a slum stop having kids, they can immediately improve their standard of living. Even if you make them aware of it, they will choose poverty. They kind of enjoy poverty, which is why I'm against the concept of charity. Why give money to people who actually love being in poverty? Let them suffer. If some guy in UP, he has a lot of money, and but he wants to, rather than using that money to travel the world and learn new things, if he wants to get his 10 daughters married in the most posh way, and I'm absolutely I think these big fat weddings which are coming more and more trend in India. Like here in South India, we didn't have things like mehendi, we didn't have all these grand
Yeah.
songs and all that stuff. Now all of a sudden, everyone has every middle class person wants to behave like an Ambani during their wedding, and some of them even take loans to have these big fat weddings. What is the point? Yeah, there is no
Absolutely.
point.
Yeah, see, seriously, there is no point. Okay, do you agree to this statement, controversial again, that some races are superior than others? Would you say that? You
Oh
shouldn't have had no
fuck. Oh fuck. I
you,
got
I know
this.
your opinion, I'm gonna tell you mine.
I was having this conversation with the left leaning friend of mine years ago, where I asked him, "Aren't aren't Belgians better than Africans?" And
Oh,
no, seriously, because even if they have a lot of resources, right? It's not like Africa doesn't have resources. And I'm not trying to say that Africans are dumb. I'm not trying to be racist against them. I'm sure they must have been dealt an unfair hand, but I would say I am slightly racist against Indians, my own people. Definitely. I think there is some are. So to answer your question, are some races better than others? If you ask me, if an average Japanese person is smarter than an Indian, I would have to say yes, that is objectively true. If I say no, we
right.
have been colonized, blah blah blah, that would be a wrong answer. I would be lying to you, and I don't want to lie to you. And honestly speaking, yes, some groups of people are smarter. They have a better IQ. They're intelligent. They are more cultured than others. It's a fact.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the main thing is education, because education is the thing that gives you levels over the world. Which is why I believe that the Jews, they say, they rule the world. It is very possible. I'm not ruling it out as a thing, because they are obsessed with education. So any problem happens, they solve it with education. Whereas there is another, which one? They solve it with violence. So education is the leverage that you get over the world, which sort of helps you think. Do you agree with this? Main thing, like a central, because it doesn't mean that everyone is a genius. Okay, it's going to be the same composition: 2% genius, 3% stalwart, and 95% idiots. But the idiot becomes an average man, and then the genius is encouraged to hit the stratosphere or whatever. But mainly through education, like mainly through culture.
Yeah, culture. Yeah, absolutely. Culture matters a lot, and we have a terrible culture. If Germans have a culture of trains that reach on time, and if Indians have a culture of hanging from buses,
Mm.
obviously one culture will win and another culture will lose. So culture does matter a lot.
Mm.
We have to reflect on our own culture. Not that every person from India is a loser. Now, when I got Jayan Bandari, again, I keep going back to that. Some people asked, "Are everyone from India dumb?" No, there are some smart ones, but we don't listen to them, which is why I don't
Right.
think that democracy is the perfect system for us. Democracy is only perfect for small groups of homogeneous people, uh, and that small group has to be really smart. If you're in an apartment where everybody has invested
Mm.
into buying an apartment, then everyone gets a vote in that society. But in India, where some people don't contribute the same to society, but everyone gets the same vote, the 51% of the dumbest people decide what is right for the rest of us. It's not going to work.
Correct.
And I think people who have a terrible culture like us deserve a
Mm.
authoritarian fascist. Maybe not Modi,
Oh,
but definitely a philosopher king, as the Greeks would say. I would prefer a philosopher king over democracy.
right. Yeah, but a philosopher king will never use violence, unfortunately, to get things done, and that is what you need to get things done. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's complex. So anyway, so I've started something called Black Sheep Academy, as you know, and this is going to be uploaded there. So it is a hope. Okay, it's a hope to teach people common sense, and it's also like people do not know, basic things, relationships, love, things like that. Nobody knows. Like I've not found any syllabus. Like I've been through all syllabuses, IB and the French syllabus, and a lot of them, and they do not teach you about yourself. Okay, so do you think this lack of education is, in a way, making the US deeply depressed?
This lack of education, I think, see, the the reason why they're really depressed right now is because they don't have a sense of community anymore. They were far more
Mm.
conservative, and it was mandatory until even during the Vietnam War for everyone to participate in the war. Every man had to participate in the war. So you had a sense of contribution, and you, of course, I'm not saying that something like that should happen again. I'm not saying in India it's not even practical. And
True.
the thing is, we need a sense of community. And as much as we would like to bash the Christian conservatives, they actually figured some
Mm.
things out when the US was getting more and more left and more liberal. The Christian conservatives kept
Yeah.
warning that this is going to be a disaster, and we kept laughing at them, especially the neo-atheist
Mm.
community, the Christopher Hitchens, the Sam Harris. Those kind of people kept laughing at the conservatives, and
Okay.
look where they are now. They said a post-religion US will be safer. Here we are in a post-religion America, where people are shooting each other in the name of Black Lives Matter, wokeism, transgender kids, puberty blockers. This is the new religion. This is what happens when you get rid of Judeo-Christian values in the West. So I would rather prefer Judeo-Christian values than these new religions, which are absolutely pathetic and which don't have a basic moral value system. At least Judeo-Christian values. We may not agree with them, but at least they had some sense of morality.
Some sense of community more than anything.
Yeah.
Because if I stop caring about everyone else around me, then why should I live? Because the truth is, would you say that it's actually coming from nihilism? Because the truth is, we have no reason to live, right? And when we realize that, when society is a kind of a distraction or a kind of a balm to this meaninglessness, right? But when you're left alone, okay, with nothing, either you get go completely into that nothingness, which is a kind of enlightenment, or you get lost on its surface, where you're just roaming around and like, what do I do with these people? And then there's the African saying that the person who burns down the village has never received any warmth, so he wants the warmth just to feel the warmth, of the village. He burns it down. So it is. I think it is that issue, and of course, this right thing that has come, the backlash, the Donald Trump backlash, is basically because they were ignored for decades now. Since the '60s, since the liberalization, they were just ignored. They're like, you don't exist. Like we didn't even have a conversation with them. It was like you don't exist. So and that is the very insulting. You can abuse someone, but that still means that they exist. You know so that is what I feel is the basic issue. What do you think about this? And what do you think about Europe? Like, what is the European culture as against the US? And is it more religious, or because they are decreasing in religion, right? The religion is decreasing, but they seem to be better off. More community, etc., etc.
Yeah, so there are all these new meme communities coming on the internet. There is the nihilist community, there is the anti-natalist community, there is the incel community, there is the feminine, not feminist community, there is the trad community, there is the Chad community, there is the based red pill community, there is the conspiracy theory
Right,
community, which has been raging from the past 2 3 years, and so many
right.
different communities. So
Mhm.
I think the reason for all these, the trad community, and there this huge group of women who call themselves feminine, not feminist, and they are on the rise right now,
Yeah.
is because they deeply want a sense of community, which is dying in the West. The fertility rate is going
Mhm.
down, and because their fertility rate is going down, they have to take refugees and immigrants sometimes, and this kind of harms the social fabric. And they then the US goes and bombs these Muslim countries, and then it creates that whole snake biting its own tail kind of a problem, because
Yeah.
then these people have to migrate to Europe and to the West because their homes are getting bombed. So
Mm.
it's a gigantic geopolitical issue, which is ultimately causing the collapse of the West. And I think the ideal region of the world right now is East Asia, countries like China, South Korea, Japan,
Yes.
Singapore, and probably even Vietnam. They're doing really well because what they did is they saw the West and they said, the West did really well in when it comes to materialism. When it came to economy, when it came to building skyscrapers, televisions, the internet. So we'll take that from the West, but we'll still remain
Mhm.
homogeneous. We'll not, promote wokeism. Will not promote diversity. Will not promote any of those leftist things. We'll only take their materialistic aspects, and we'll still be a nativist, conservative community. And that combination is what has helped East Asia survive and thrive for a very long time. Whereas India has done the exact opposite. We haven't taken the materialist aspect from the West. We have only taken the wokeism, the LGBTQ, and right-wing nationalism. We have taken only these feral concepts, and we have forgotten the most important thing, the materialistic aspirations from the West. So we did the exact opposite of East Asia, which is why India is hopeless, at least for the next 30 to 50 years, and the West is slowly collapsing. And I don't think they'll completely collapse, because a rebound is happening, and the rebound could lead to something like a civil war, because the left is going so much to the left that I think it is inevitable that there will be large scale violence in the US, at least.
Yeah, crazy. Like, imagine that 20% of all children at this point are identifying as LGBTQ or something like that. LGBTQ, no, transgender. So it's
Yeah.
like all of them are being born in the wrong bodies. It doesn't make sense. So yeah, you are right in a way. I mean, say China is an authoritarian mess, but other than that, I think East Asia seems to have its game sorted. I think
Mm,
Japan has sorted out the population issue prima facie because they have
mm.
the money and they've adapted to the old people getting old, etc., etc. So yeah, it does make sense. But if this is going to be interesting, do you think Asia is going to be the next power center? Because as the West collapses, I don't think China is, because China seems to be breaking within itself. It may be a superpower from a military point of view, but maybe Asia, somewhere in Asia, 3 4 countries will sort of take over the world power thing when if and when the US collapses.
No, I don't think East Asia will become the world's leading powers because which country? I mean, South Korea has its own mess with North Korea. Japan's
Right.
population is declining so much, and their economy will shrink eventually because if your population is becoming, population is going to be reduced by half by 2050. So they can't take over the world because they don't have the manpower. Most of Eastern Asia countries have a very low fertility rate, so their population is declining. So it's not just that they don't have the capabilities, and much of the smarter people in countries like Vietnam, Philippines, South Korea are moving to the US. I don't want to underestimate US too much because even to this day I think US spends almost one third of the world's R&D budget. They are investing so much in the future. They're coming up with the latest they I mean, Uber and all these companies, these
Yeah,
the rest of the world can't come up with that stuff. So the US will probably, if they manage to survive, if they manage to get their act together, which I think they might, if they do, they will probably thrive even 50 years from now. I don't think the power center will change away from the
it is,
US.
it is highly possible, yes, because they seem to dig themselves out of hole extremely well. So
Yeah.
they really perfected the whole science, science is profit
Hmm.
kind of concept. Okay, let's take it on a slightly different note. Do you believe in love?
I've never fallen in love, so I don't know. Like I'm, of course, I would say that I love my mother, I love my friends. Are you talking about romantic love? Because that's something that I'm not an expert on. I'm not an expert on romantic love, but love in general.
Yeah, belief is generally that that whole
Yeah.
myth that they make. So is it a myth? And if love exists, what is love? Like, what do you define love?
It's a very subjective thing. Love, on a very objective scale, love does not exist. It's just a chemical reaction. But everything, I don't think everything is objective. I think we have to look at things in subjective way also. Even human rights is subjective. Human life itself is subjective. The way we are talking to each other because we believe in some subjective things. If we only believed in objective things, we don't have to talk to each other. We can just stare at a calculator whole day. The the yes, on a subjective level, yes, love does exist. You feel some kind of you and love is a result of mutual selfishness. You love the other person
Mm,
because you love yourself. You see, you feel good when you're around that person, and that selfishness is what increases your love towards that person. And now if that other person reciprocates that, then bingo, it's mutual selfishness. If you
correct,
can find another
correct,
person with whom you can be mutually selfish, then that's love.
correct. And does unconditional love exist?
Unconditional love does exist. Most of the time it is one sided. When a mother takes care of a child, even if that child is an idiot, an ungrateful child, now that mother is being unconditional, she's giving unconditional love to the child. Many people may say that mother is an idiot. Perhaps she is, but she derives
Right.
some kind of joy. And that joy is not rational, but that joy
Mm,
exists. Why does it exist? You have to ask that person. But unconditional love does exist for a lot of people.
mm. Fair enough. And do you think it is possible to be happy completely alone, assuming all resources, of course?
Do I think it's happy to be completely?
It is possible to be happy completely alone, assuming you have all resources.
uh, yeah, absolutely. I think difficult to be happy around people, at least for someone like me. I feel more lonely around my friends than when I'm alone in this room. In the past 2 3
Yes.
years, I've actually reduced hanging out with my friends drastically. I used to go out every weekend. Now I go maybe once a month, or maybe even lesser than that. I'm okay with my own company.
Mhm.
One of the reasons why I started my podcast is so that I can talk to different kind of people, because I'm tired of talking to the same kind of people. uh, I think a lot of people who can manage to be alone are actually really satisfied with their life. They're at peace. And the people who are constantly surrounded with people who are seeking some kind of they want others to reciprocate their emotions. They are never really satisfied. So it is easier for the
Yeah,
person
well,
who's alone to be happy than for the person who's constantly seeking a group of people around him.
absolutely. And do you think it's a generational thing, like us being alone? And I realized I had recently there was a teens camp which I was heading. Okay, and I realized that these people are even more suicidal than our generation. They are more alone, they're more suicidal, they're more and more. Also, they think about life. It's not just mindless suicidal. But and they have sad memes and all these pages. Much more than we do. So, do you think it's a generational thing? Like, are we coming to a wall of hopelessness?
I think it's more of a class thing. Now, most of these teenagers who you met, were they from urban upper middle class families?
More or less, yes.
Yes. So when you are living in on the seventh floor in some 3 BHK house, both your parents are working, you're constantly looking at cell phones, and if you are belonging to that generation, and if you didn't
Hmm.
grow around with kids playing cricket, getting injured all the time, and having fun
Yes.
from from little pleasures, then you are going to be
Hmm.
more suicidal. You're going to enjoy sad memes. You're going to jerk off to porn
Right.
3 times a day. You're going to watch hentai, and your life is going to
But
be
no,
miserable.
I don't believe that's just an urban phenomenon. It is because see, right now, somebody or a lot of these people, YouTubers, have been making this analysis that even the rural youth is not as restless as it would have been in the 1960s, right? So what the rural
Mm.
youth is looking at is they've got Geo now, right? So how much does it cost? 150, 200 rupees a month. That much they can make, okay? And they will go work, they'll do their whole thing. So as a generation, yes, of course it is more in someone who's living on the seventh floor. That's a different thing. But even among the youth, it's become a thing. Like today, you go to the poorest of. I recently went to a very poor railway platform, and everyone is on their phone. Like beggar was on his phone. Like everyone. So it's like it's not even. It's just a generational thing. Mainly, probably because we've realized distraction has become so obvious. Earlier we had subtler ways of distracting ourselves. Now it's become so obvious. One thing. So that's why we have this. That life has no meaning. What do you say about that?
Yeah, but staring at cell phones is also a form of distraction, because uh, that itself is a form of distraction. So I don't know if that actually makes them happy or sad. I think many people who have not
Hmm.
killed themselves because they're staring at their phone for 10 hours a day. If you take away their phone, they may actually go ahead and kill themselves. So I don't know if
100%. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm not entirely sure if technology has actually prevented suicide or if it's actually causing suicide. Why are more and more
Hmm.
people becoming depressed nowadays? Again, another interesting statistic. During 2020, the crime reports, the Indian crime reports said that more Indians died of suicide than COVID. So,
Yes.
yeah. So, why are
I
so
mean, it
many
is. It is.
people, yeah, why are so many people killing themselves? Um, I think I can only answer for certain individuals. I don't know, because I know
Hmm.
in my own family, few people have actually committed suicide, and they have not left a suicide
Yes.
note. Nobody even knows why they have killed themselves. So
Correct.
like it's very difficult to explain for as a group. When you say, when people
Hmm.
say like suicides have gone up by 10%, what do I do with that information? There's nothing I can do. If you tell me I have this friend, his name is Nihal, he killed himself, I can go and do some kind of basic investigation. I can say, okay, what was his habits, how were his friends, like what are his failures. With the statistic, like 10% of Indians are the suicide has gone up by 10%. There's nothing I can really uh,
Yeah.
I can't make any judgment from that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, so one of the last few questions, I want you to sum up generally what you believe. So since you are a podcaster, right? And even today I was watching Karan Thapa's interview, and I'm like, what? How do they decide what to ask him? Unfortunately, he had like one or two interviews which went very badly. That's the interviewer's fault, not his. So can you sum your thought process up? Whatever you've learned, okay, whatever you've learned as a podcaster and what you think you are. At least I know you haven't found yourself or whatever, but what you think in general like, at this moment.
What do I think is needed?
Hmm. In general,
Okay.
like what have you discovered yourself? What is your philosophy? What have you
Okay.
learned? And what do you think? What are you unsure of, etc.
Yeah, I am an existentialist. I wouldn't call myself a nihilist, but I'm not an essentialist like those religious people. I don't know what existence really is. I don't know if this is even real. Entire life could be a dream for all I know, and this is something that is happening, and I want to make the most of it. I just want to have some fun. However that fun is derived from, I just want to have some fun. And by talking to more than 50 almost 70 people on the podcast, I have reinvented myself. I have certain opinions on politics, economics. I am leaning very much to the libertarian side of things. I believe in personal liberties, but personal liberties have to come with personal responsibilities. And because I've interviewed people like Jayan Bandari, I know that Indians don't have the culture to understand libertarianism, or Indians cannot enjoy rights. Indians actually don't deserve rights, because in order to for you to deserve rights, you have to have that culture. You have to adopt that responsibility. And uh, I am also a rationalist. I look at things as it is, and I try to ascertain what is happening there. And if I can't figure out, I say, you know what, I haven't figured it out yet. I might be wrong on this. Maybe I should talk to people who I disagree with. Maybe they'll give me a better idea about this. That's the process that I try to do.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Is there anything you'd like to add, as you always ask at the end of your
Mm,
podcast?
No, man, I have nothing. It's an honor to be on Rudecast. You were not rude enough. You should have been more rude. And
Oh, no, no,
yeah,
I'm not the one who's rude. I make you be rude.
no,
And that's why I have controversial questions.
no, I actually I can't be rude. I think all these questions make sense. All the best for your podcast. And yeah, like, is there anything that you want to talk about antinatalism, or I don't know?
Oh, I have spoken and spoken, and I am tired. I was just telling my friend today. I was just like, I'm done with Neil Anand. I don't care about anything. I'm just doing what I want to, and I'm putting up whatever, and whatever works works. That's my attitude now. I've just done constantly, all this verbal diarrhea as they call it. So yeah, so let's conclude that. Thank you so much for showing up. And I've always wanted to like, since I think our second interview, I was always like, okay, maybe the guy has some interesting thing, and the kind of people that you get are definitely like such a variety. It's very interesting. I've never seen that kind of variety in a podcast, and the ones that are famous are so terrible. Like you know which ones I'm talking about. They're like
No, no, please name.
alien.
I want to hear the names.
What is that? That Ranveer show, and
Beer
my God, I'm
biceps.
like, beer biceps. Who are you getting online? One self-proclaimed guy saying, "I have seen aliens." Okay, I mean, I've been hearing this since the 1950s, dude. So give me
Yeah.
some quality. And of course, the quality doesn't work, obviously, in India. So
The
yeah,
most the
so
most intellectual podcast of India, Beer Biceps. That's what it's called. The tagline, the most intellectual podcast. Yeah,
oh, really? I didn't know
yeah.
that.
It's he gets he in
Please.
on his shorts, right? He puts shorts on YouTube. The comment section, they kill him. Like people
Oh,
absolutely, his own fans thrash him, because recently I think Ayushman Kurana came on his podcast, and he said something like, it takes 3 years if you eat protein for your body to digest. And people are like, this doesn't make any sense. Or when it's just random stuff like like he becomes fully serious, okay, Ranveer, and he asks his guest, by having sex with people, do you exchange the karma with that person? And then they go on and on and into that. So yeah, that's the thing, man. So I want to ask a question. Are there any big podcasts that you enjoy watching?
I mean, not really. Very rarely Joe Rogan. I mean, if he gets a really good guest and they're talking very logically, and definitely their podcasts, the US and all are much more overall logical because they will not spare them. But the Indian podcast, I want to see an Indian point of view, and I want to see it without Shiva and aliens and random people saying rubbish, like and actors talking about what they like, and come on, like
Yeah,
seriously. So,
the worst, yeah, even worse than Indian podcasters are Indian motivational speakers like our Guru Sandeep Maheshwari and all these weird people, man. My God.
God, God. I mean, and the way they have taken up the audience that they have chosen is absolute genius. They are geniuses. They
Yeah,
are
yeah.
extremely smart. They know what they want. And they will propagate that same rubbish in the name of motivation. And they're like, padhai karo. Are ye to your parents are also saying the same thing. You know. So people don't get that. But I like money, but I don't like it that much that I'm going to go there. So and I don't think you are. So yeah, I think we are stuck with a few thousand followers. So anyway,
Okay.
all right. So thank you for coming, man. And we definitely have a round two when I have more topics because now I've got a certain list. So maybe when I'm when I have like at least more than 1,000 followers, then we'll go again. Okay. So
Definitely,
thank
man.
you, man.
Thanks
Thank
for
you so much. Yeah.
yeah, thanks
All
for
right.
yeah, having me.
Yeah. Of course. Chalo. Bye, boss. Huh?